Welcome back to Myth and Magic, the podcast where we grab our cozy socks and favorite drinky drinks. And today we're going to be deep diving into the fascinating world of folklore, legend, and the things that go bump in the night because it is cozy, spooky season. But in today's case, stand still in the day. All day, all night. I'm your host, Lore, hello, and today we're going on a slightly spooky, undeniably intriguing journey into the world of Scarecrow spirits. This is different than our jack-o'-lantern episode we did last year, so don't worry, we're not being repetitive. These silent sentinels of the fields have a rich history and a more complex lore than you might imagine. They're not just there to stand with their arms out to scare crows away and protect the farmer's crops so we can eat delicious foods. There's much more to them. Let's begin, as we are now often doing, with the words themselves. The term scarecrow is pretty straightforward, isn't it? It literally means to scare crows, but delve a little deeper into its etymology and you find a history stretching back surprisingly far. The word scare itself comes from Old Norse skira, meaning to frighten, and crow, from the Old English crow. But the concept of a scarecrow is far, far older than the English word. We're talking ancient times. Farmers have always needed to protect their crops, and rudimentary scarecrows, or effigies designed to frighten away pests, can be traced back to agricultural societies across the globe. In ancient Egypt, farmers used simple wooden frames covered with nets to protect their wheat fields from birds. The Greeks too employed effigies. They would carve wooden figures of Parapis, a god of fertility and protector of gardens and vineyards, and place them in their fields. These figures were often depicted with a large phallus, which was believed to ward off birds and thieves alike. Moving into the Roman Empire, similar practices continued, and the idea of a protective, albeit sometimes crude, figure in the fields persisted. In Japan, early scarecrows were called kakashi or kagashi, and often made from old clothes and bamboo, sometimes with bells or drums attached to create noise. These weren't just for birds. They were also believed to ward off evil spirits that might harm the harvest. How do scarecrow spirits come into being? This is where the lines between practical farming tool and supernatural entity begin to blur. Traditionally, a scarecrow is born when it's constructed by human hands. Straw, old clothes, a sturdy crossbar. But for a scarecrow to become a spirit, there's often a catalyst. Sometimes it's believed a spirit or entity takes up residence within an abandoned or neglected scarecrow. This could be a nature spirit, a mischievous fae, or even the lingering essence of someone who died on the land. In other tales, the sheer amount of time a scarecrow stands watch, absorbing the energy of the sun, wind, and the land itself, can imbue it with a form of life or sentience. The longer it stands, the more it becomes a part of the landscape, blurring the lines between object and entity. As for their appearance, scarecrow spirits often retain the basic form of their mundane origins. They may look like tattered figures of straw and old clothes, perhaps with a pumpkin or sack for a head. However, the spiritual aspect often manifests in subtle or not so subtle ways. Their eyes might glow with an eerie light. Their movements might be unnaturally fluid, or their tattered clothes might seem to shift and billow even on a windless night. They often carry the signs of their time in the elements, weathered, worn, and perhaps a little sinister. The primary purpose of a scarecrow spirit, much like its non-magical counterpart, is protection. They are guardians of the harvest, sentinels of the field, They ward off not just crows, but anything that might threaten the abundance of the land. Pests, thieves, and even malevolent supernatural entities. Their purpose is deeply tied to the agricultural cycle, to the very sustenance of human life. Their personality, however, can vary widely. Many scarecrow spirits are benevolent, still protectors, content to stand watch and ensure a bountiful harvest. They might even offer subtle guidance or warnings to those who respect the land. But there's also a darker side. Some scarecrow spirits can be mischievous, playing pranks on trespassers or those who disrespect their domain. Others are outright malevolent, particularly if they were born from neglect, anger, or a tragic event. These spirits might resent their confinement, their perpetual watch, and unleash their frustration on anyone who comes too close. They embody the wilder, untamed aspects of nature, and their protection can come at a steep price. What powers and attributes do these silent sentinels possess? While they may not have flashy magical abilities, their power lies in their connection to the land and their unique nature. Their very essence can instill a sense of unease or outright terror. This isn't just because of their appearance. It's a psychic projection or a subtle current of fear that flows from them. Some scarecrow spirits can influence the weather in their immediate vicinity, bringing a sudden chill or stirring up dust devils. This is often tied to their protective nature, scaring away anything unwanted. They often have a deep connection to the natural world around them, the plants, the animals, and the very soil. They might know the secrets of the land, the best growing conditions, or where hidden treasure lies. Paradoxically, their ability to remain still for extended periods is a power itself. It allows them to observe, to be ever vigilant, and to blend seamlessly into the landscape until they choose to reveal themselves. In some stories, a scarecrow spirit can animate other inanimate objects, or even possess the bodies of living creatures, though this is usually a sign of more powerful or malevolent entity. Scarecrow spirits are rich in symbolism. They represent the liminal space between the cultivated and the wild, between life and death, and between the human and the supernatural. The basic structure of a scarecrow is a cross, which holds significant symbolic weight in many cultures, representing crossroads, sacrifice, and the intersection of different realms. Straw and earth are materials directly connected to the harvest in the earth, symbolizing fertility, renewal, and the cycle of life and death. We also have tattered clothing. The old, worn clothing speaks of abandonment, neglect, but also resilience and a connection to human history. The lack of a clear face or the use of a pumpkin head emphasizes their own otherworldly nature and their ability to reflect back the viewer's own fears. In art, scarecrows are often depicted in rural settings, standing alone in a vast field, emphasizing their solitary nature. They are frequently shown under a moonlit sky or in twilight, heightening their eerie presence. Sometimes, artists will give them glowing eyes or a subtle, menacing stance to hint at their spiritual essence. The idea of worshiping scarecrow spirits isn't typically in the traditional sense of building temples or performing elaborate rituals. However, there are certain practices that border on veneration or respectful appeasement. Historically, farmers have offered small tokens of gratitude to their scarecrows, especially after a successful harvest. This could be a handful of grain, a piece of fruit, or even just a respectful acknowledgement of its role. This wasn't worship, but a form of symbiotic relationship, recognizing the scarecrow's contribution to their livelihood. In some folk traditions, specific rituals might be performed during the construction of a scarecrow to imbue it with protective qualities or to invite a benevolent spirit to inhabit it. This could involve incantations, blessings, or the use of specific materials. Today, overt worship is rare. However, the reverence for nature, the respect for agricultural cycles, and the acknowledgement of forces beyond human control still manifests in various ways. You see it in sustainable farming practices, in festivals celebrating the harvest, and even in contemporary art and literature that imbues scarecrows with a sense of sentience or spiritual power. People might not pray to scarecrows, but they might feel a strong connection to the land it represents and the cycle of life it protects. Scarecrow spirits have predictably found a fertile ground in pop culture. Their inherent creepiness, combined with their symbolic depth, makes them ideal characters for horror, fantasy, and even children's stories. I want to highlight a few specific examples that you might enjoy further exploring. In art, there are numerous pieces that feature scarecrows, often leaning into their uncanny nature. So first, Andrew Wyeth's paintings, while not directly depicting animated scarecrows, often feature stark, real landscapes with a sense of quiet solitude that can evoke a similar feeling of the lone sentinel. His painting, Christina's World, has that isolated, almost watchful quality. Many contemporary artists explore the scarecrow as a symbol of environmental concerns or rural decay. Look for artists who focus on folk art or outsider art, as scarecrows frequently appear in these genres, often with a raw, almost spiritual quality. You might find unique interpretations in galleries specializing in regional American art. When it comes to pop culture, the scarecrow's influence is vast. They're in a lot of places. They're everywhere. First, in literature, we have L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This has also, of course, been adapted into several movie forms and also musicals. But the Scarecrow is a beloved character who desires a brain. His journey is central to the story of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Stephen King's short story, Strawberry Spring, found in his collection Night Shift. While not exclusively about a scarecrow spirit, the story features a mysterious fog and a sense of dread that ties into the rural landscape, echoing the unsettling nature some scarecrows can possess. The Scarecrow by Robert G. Maslow. This horror novel directly features a malevolent scarecrow entity. Neil Gaiman's American Gods, while not a scarecrow spirit specifically, has the novel explores old gods and forgotten deities who embody aspects of Americana and the idea of forgotten agricultural spirits, which fits well within the themes of scarecrows. In film and television, first of all, you have Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, which is a 1981 film. It's made for TV horror. It's a classic, and it's an example of vengeful scarecrow coming to life. Jeepers Creepers, the 2001 film. It has a demonic entity who often uses scarecrow-like imagery and disguises itself, pulling directly from the eerie aesthetic. Scarecrows, 1988 movie, is another horror film where a group of bank robbers encounters reanimated scarecrows. The Messengers, a 2007 movie, features a family moving to a secluded farm plagued by ghostly scarecrows. Doctor Who, which is a show I love, the episode Human Nature and the Family of Blood is a 2-part episode feature that shows scarecrows who come to life to serve as soldiers for an alien family, creating a chilling visual. It was pretty creepy, but a lot of fun. Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, The Tale of the Crimson Clown. While a clown, the episode features an inanimate figure coming to life to menace children, drawing on similar anxieties as a scarecrow. Though I would argue that clowns are a little creepier in this instance. DC Comics Scarecrow video game, or comic, has Dr. Jonathan Crane It's a classic Batman villain who uses fear as his weapon. He's appeared in numerous comics, animated series, and films like Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. I remember that one actually when it came out. He was pretty creepy. Mortal Kombat character Scarecrow. While not a primary character, various fan creations and modding communities have developed Scarecrow characters for the game inspired by the DC villain. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which of various quests and folklore elements, the game features numerous references to local folklore and spirits tied to the land. And while not direct Scarecrow spirits, the idea of animated figures or guardians of rural areas certainly fits the theme. And then the Silent Hill series. The games often feature unsettling, mannequin-like figures or creatures that resemble crude effigies, evoking a similar sense of the uncanny and the grotesque found in some Scarecrow lore. Beyond specific character appearances, the stories that Scarecrows embody often revolve around themes of vengeance, guardianship, the power of nature, and the thin veil between our world and the supernatural. They are tales of warnings, of consequences for disrespecting the land or its guardians. Sometimes they are stories of quiet protectors watching over fields and homes, only revealing themselves when truly needed. Other times they are a cautionary tale of ancient spirits awakened or human malice, finding a new terrifying vessel. These stories tap into a primal fear of the static, watching figure and the unsettling idea that the seemingly inanimate might hold a dark and potent life. And so we conclude our journey into the world of the Scarecrow spirit. From their humble origins as practical farm tools to their evolution into powerful symbolic entities, Scarecrow spirits offer a fascinating glimpse into humanity's relationship with nature, fear, and the unseen. They stand as silent reminders of the cycles of life and death, the bounty of the earth, and the chilling possibility that even the most innocent-looking figure in a field might be watching you back. So the next time you see a scarecrow standing alone in a field, take a moment to consider its long history and the potential for something more than straw and old clothes to reside within. You never know who or what might be listening. All right, thank you for joining me today on Myth and Magic. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope that you had fun learning about Scarecrow spirits. I didn't actually really know about them until I was searching for stuff to do this season. So this was a fun little dive into an entity I never really considered as having the possibilities of a spirit. So consider that as you are creating. And remember, this is all stuff to be learned, used, and broken. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you will stay for the next one. We're gonna be talking about something else that's kind of spooky scary. So I will see you next time. Bye.